Hi, and good afternoon, everyone, or morning, whatever. My name's Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day, and let's re-scratch that, right? That's why I said whatever, you feel me? Joke, remember? Hi, and good morning, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is Vlogs About Nothing. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your very busy morning to join me. I really appreciate it. Okay, so I wanted to talk right now, obviously, because I'll be honest, talking helps me. You feel me? Sometimes I don't know what it is. Sometimes people like to walk, I think it's really weird when things that you typically like turn into things that you hate. And so I'm kind of going through that right now while I both simultaneously love walking. There's a huge part of me right now that is just tore apart. Because, anyways, just like I said, sometimes the things that you enjoy doing turn into the things that you hate. And when that happens, take a step back, smoke a little doobie, and just remind yourself of how you got to where you were to begin with, and go back to that place. You feel me? Because that place was so much more comfortable. This morning I want to talk about vouchers, educational vouchers, and title of the video, link in the description below. Obviously, check out some other resources. You feel me? Do your own thing. This is kind of a new topic. But obviously, it isn't new in that the very same people that have made our lives a living hell, right? Namely, the quiet generation and the boomers, the same very people who spent their entire lives advocating against such things as legalized sports gambling and, moreover, public schools, right? It's sort of like these are the same generation of people that were like from public schools that made us go to public schools. And now, for some reason, this very same group, this very same cohort of people are trying to push legislation in the state of Texas. And, it's not just the gambling I mentioned, and that's a big part. I hate the fact that they're trying to tear apart the fabric of what traditionally is a state that is super anti-gambling. Call it what you will, you feel me? But Texas is a big state, and they have a lot of pull. And historically, they have always, sort of provided a little reluctance to the federal government. I don't know. Have you heard of like the Alamo and stuff? I don't know. It's kind of a big deal. This particular part of the country, seeing as though it interconnects geographically to the other part of the Americas. I'm just saying, right? So it's pretty important, the totality of all the things that I'm talking about. And I feel like going back to those guilty culprits. Like, I don't know, like the boomers, right? I don't know anything else to call them except for criminals, right? Because literally that's what it is. Again, you know, um, educational vouchers are a huge part of destroying that very fabric that we had just talked about with, like, society, and moreover, always just the people who need it the most will suffer. And so let's talk about what an educational voucher is, in case you don't know what an educational voucher is, because it's not something that is often talked about, as it should not be talked about, just so much as the implementation of, like religion being intertwined with politics. Not a good thing, There are clearly different agendas, there are clearly different ways to sell or, attempt to sell a kind of idea. And so an educational voucher is when the state government, right, the state sovereign government of the United States of America, the same very group of people that exercise an extreme amount of autonomy, all within the umbrella of the federal guidelines that, dictate what that state sovereignty in and of itself means. And so, with educational vouchers, the state collects taxes just so much as the federal government collects taxes. The state also has the ability to, and the legal ability to, get taxes from people and stuff. Property taxes, income taxes, excise taxes, luxury taxes, probate taxes, all different types of taxes, right? That's where, not to mention that probate, right? That, when you live and you're old, and like most of us, you end up unaliving at the end of it all with nothing, or if you do have something, quite often, if you're not like willfully, like in a will, placing where that stuff's gonna go, then it goes back to the state, right? So, like, I'm just saying that the state enjoys a lot of different perks for just being the middleman between us and Uncle Sam, right? An extreme amount of perks. And educational vouchers are like when the state is giving taxpayer money to private individuals so that they can use said money to send their children to private school. Now, I gotta tell you, I have been an anti charter school, uh, you know, guy myself for the past 20 years. Bill Gates has single-handedly destroyed the public educational system with the introduction of things like charter schools and stuff that is just disenfranchised, where students would typically be able to like immerse themselves with other like-minded students and actually have an opportunity at a future. Now instead, parents are stuck between like the kind of decisions that we all make at the supermarket. There's too many decisions. And so what's weird is that anytime we use public money to fund private entities, it kind of goes against the very thing that we all hate very much, and that's the idea that our government can't provide us with the same very basic services at what is not just an arguably cheaper rate, but in reality a way cheaper rate, right? It is way cheaper for the state to facilitate education and to not give money that belongs to the people of the state that they collect from those that are most vulnerable. Because remember, rich people, they don't pay taxes, right? They get away from paying any amount of tax. It's just multiplied by orders of magnitude, right? Like if one billionaire paid a fair share of tax, right? Just one of these dudes, that would be a small, significant percentage as it would be to thousands of people paying a higher rate on their income than the very people who make so much more than them that pay zero tax on their income. So like, I'm just saying that educational vouchers are stupid, and if this happens in Texas, it will happen where you are. And that's it's weird again how we vote for things like this, or people tell us to vote for things like this, and then next thing you know, like the only people that'll be able to send their kids to school are the ones who are going to actually be able to afford the entire tuition that it takes for a kid to go to that school. And $10,000, I know, sounds like a lot, but in the private school world, that's going to get your kid just a few months of education. And remember, they need an entire year, right? And remember that the state governments, through, like getting money from the federal government, not to mention shaking down your own pockets, is ultimately, why send the money somewhere else when where we send it to, they should be the people to go ahead and make sure that public education is good, and that there need not be this push to try and literally privatize education, all while the people that need that particular kind of education the most will have no access to it. And that bothers me so much, because again, you start to see these things, and then all over the country, all of a sudden, everyone's voting on things they don't understand. And again, private schools, I get it. As parents, we want to send our children to the best kind of school. I understand that. But then we're also, like, literally our own victims of like fear. You feel me? Like ultimately, we need to trust that the very people who are responsible for our safety 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the federal government, you got to trust them. You must. And if not, then like, you're probably in the wrong country. You feel me? I mean, I don't really think that you can even dismiss our government. I mean, you could maybe move to China, you go to Russia. I mean, there's some places out there, I feel like, that on the surface are very welcoming to those people who have essentially anti-American sentiments, right? That's pretty anti-American. It's pretty anti-American to not want your neighborhood children to have an opportunity at a good life because you think that the state is inadequate, and how, again, like, that's just a bunch of fear-mongering, like a bunch of cowards. I don't understand. Why would you want to pay for something that can be provided to you for free and in a better kind of a way? Like, you could use your time for other things. I mean, the private world is full of opportunity. I mean, be creative. Open a restaurant. I don't know what to tell you, like, seriously, but just, there's no need to dedicate so much time and energy to shake down and extort the very government that, like, could just help you, instead of having to go through all of these, like, things, all these potentially criminal acts and lying, all while just trying to, make a few dollars. I don't understand. But again, it's these very kinds of ideas. In the 90s, I mean, educational vouchers in and of themselves, it's not a new idea. But again, 20 years ago, if you had asked anybody about educational vouchers, the very same people who are now trying to sell that idea, they would look at you like a certain type of way. You feel me? And again, like, so why is it that, these people are allowed to make rational, logical, reasoning, reasoned decisions, and, like, the rest of us are just, I'm telling you, like, they think we're stupid. And again, like, I guess they wouldn't be that far from the truth, because I guess, what does this accomplish, right? Maybe 5 people watch this video. That's not true. In like 3 weeks, many people will have watched this video. But the future me, is sort of just still, like, stuck right now in whatever date it is, whatever year it is. And I'm just, like, sort of like, I don't understand people. I really don't. Like, stop harming your kids. You feel me? Like, please and thank you. Stop trying to sell a product that will never work, not for anyone. Instead, just fix what we already have, right? Like, why on earth would you want to give government money to private people to take care of your children, when the very same kind of opportunity can lend itself to you and your family free of charge, without there being fear of, them being told to leave school? I mean, there are so many different privileges that come from being in a public school. Ask any, well-to-do, working, or lower-class student that's come from public education, right? The half of us has been to half the schools in our local district in public schools. And if we had not had the opportunity to go to different schools within our community as, a free right to education, then, like, I gotta tell you, a lot of millennials, including myself, would not know basic math. This is the plight of the low and the middle working class people who have to deal with things like moving, and have to deal with things like, making sure their kids can still go to that school, and not to mention that, things are so messed up sometimes that the majority of youth that, go to public school have behavioral issues. But, hey, wait, that's why there's charter schools. It's sort of like, they got us in all different types of way. Again, like, there's always a solution, right? But it's a private solution. Like, forget having it free, or forget having the government regulate it. You're stuck with listening to some random dude named Chuck. Hopefully Chuck has your best interests at heart, you know what I mean? I mean, we're told that he does because we're paying him, but I don't think that's like a legal contract. I don't think just because you pay somebody to feel a certain type of way, that ain't no type of, like, legal contract. Like, you see what I'm saying? Or maybe it is. I don't know. Whatever. Somebody bribed me. I don't know. It's not possible. I'm just saying, like, in retrospect, educational vouchers absolutely suck. And, we should be absolutely against them. And we should be very concerned that there are so many people out there that are hell-bent on destroying the public educational system, all while simultaneously complaining about it, right? Instead of, like, going to PTA meetings, instead of sending their kids to the public school that's literally right across the street, right? There are parents that will go out of their way. How many kids do you know who I'm talking about? Yeah, you probably do. You live right across the street from a public education, from a public school, and you don't go there because you're too good for that place, right? You're good enough to live in the neighborhood that fosters the idea of public education, but you don't want to send your kids to across the street. God, you'd rather, harm the environment and take up more of your time and stress out yourself by driving your kids 8 miles out of your way so that they can go to private school, right? And then you feel some type of way because all these unnecessary things that you've done to make that happen get you stressed out, and I'm supposed to feel some type of way about your stress because you don't want to send your kid across the street? Like, I don't know, that's a little weird. Again, while all simultaneously saying things that are completely misleading, right? Like, people, often the left-leaning libs and also the right-leaning people, right? It doesn't matter. Look across the street. Does your kid go to that school that you can see across the street? And if they don't, why not? Like, what's your beef? You feel me? Like, you also going to vote for educational vouchers? I'm sure that you will. That's a rhetorical question. But then what happens, when, I guess I'm thinking and I'm solving these problems out loud, right? The public school closes across the street. They demolish it. They put up some new houses. Some more rich people move in. What happens to the kids that used to go to that school? Who cares? They're at some charter school, right? Because Bill Gates has made it his mission to provide free education that isn't from the government, like private free education. I just, doesn't that sound weird? It is weird because there's no such thing. Like, private is private. If they're gonna be private, they need to be making money. You feel me? There's no need for places like charter schools. There's no need for places like food banks. Again, the very middle people who sell you on the idea that without their services the world would be an awful place. Like, I hate to remind them, but I will, that like the world was a way better place before those things were around, right? I mean, food banks historically have been churches in times of great need and desperation and world wars. You don't go to your local food bank. I don't see people lining up at the food bank when bombs are being dropped on other countries all over the world, because that's not true. It's not true. A place that you're going to go and you'll always be able to go, right? Non-denominational, denominational, whatever, for everybody is a church. Like that's where you're, again, going to receive actual help in a time of crises. A time of crises is not one of which that is manipulated by the very people who are supposed to be taking care of us. That's all that I'm saying, right? So, like, none of that matters. Like, none of it at all. Bill Gates trying to do his thing, the food banks trying to do their thing. These are one and the same. There are services that need not be around because all they do is add additional economic costs. And again, if we're trying to save money and we're trying to be efficient here, like, I think the best way to save money is to not pay people to do the very things that the government should be able to do for free. So, like, no brainer, right? That's all that I'm saying. So, educational vouchers suck, and I don't want to hear about it. You feel me? Like, I don't want to hear rich parents, talk about how they want to continue to send their kids to private school and they want a free $10,000 from the government so that they can save money on their kids' tuition. Like, again, that makes no sense. You want to send your kids to private school? Cough up the money, yo. Like, whatever, right? Like, don't count on Uncle Sam to bankroll your private, educational needs, right? Why do that? They are two different entities. Don't mix them up. Please don't make us fascist. Please don't make us any more fascist than we already are. I am so sorry to the world. So many of us are, right? Because, again, like, this sucks, and I just am, not a fan at all. So I'm gonna get out of character now. Hey, listen, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. You feel me? Every single night there's, like, way many more people watching and stuff, and I really appreciate that. Educational vouchers bother me. You feel me? Like, no joke, no caps. They bother me a lot. It sucks when adults are trying to destroy their children's future. I really think that sucks. You feel me? And that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what's happening. And, I guess we're all too busy doomsday scrolling to really understand that the safety and the, potential future of our children should be in the hands of our government. Again, no private school in the world, right? I mean, is going to stand up for you, is going to, like, make sure that you're safe. I mean, I don't know. This just doesn't happen, right? So you may as well roll up services all in one, at least when it comes to things like education. It's just one of those things that, like, if there's a better private option out there, which in a free market there, inevitably would be, but market would dictate that those services would cost a lot of money, which they do. Private schools cost a lot of money. The better the private school, the more expensive the tuition is. This is just how it works, right? I get that. But that doesn't mean that, like, anyone and everyone can live that kind of a life. You feel me? Like, it's not sustainable. And moreover, what is totally possible is to have world-class education that is paid for by the government, that isn't taxed. Again, when private people create businesses, they have to pay more tax. When the government creates industry and becomes a part of business, they are the business. Like, there's no tax involved. Nobody has to pay any additional money. People get equal treatment. Again, like, I just think that we live in a world where you think that you might be better than people. And I'm sorry, you're not. Neither am I. Nobody is, right? And I think that's just kind of the irony in how we all try and live our lives, right? Based on the idea that, like we're too good for that, and like, just because we had a certain type of experience in public education, we want to make it so that we all as adults have to work 10 times harder to make sure that not only we have to afford groceries. Not to mention, you guys realize that while rich people are worrying about getting and scraping up tuition money for kids to go to school at fancy places, most American families are going to bed hungry, right? So, like, again, priorities, you feel me? Like, priorities, people. And don't take things away from people that need them more than you. Don't think that it's okay to do that for any reason at all, because it's not, right? Again, just, it's messed up. I think it's messed up, and I just, there's a lot of talking points in the current modern world. And so I don't want to do it. I don't want to have a conversation. Vouchers suck. Public education is a good thing. It can be a good thing. It is a good thing. I don't know why it would not be a good thing. Again, like, y'all want to save money, right? We all want to save money. I guess, again, unless you have a stupid amount of money to waste anyway. But that's not most of our problems. Most of us don't have that problem, you feel me? And I think it'd be kind of cool if we did. But then, these same very people who are trying to sell you this idea wouldn't even be involved in the very business model, because they're only involved in it so that they can shake you down at the very cost of your child's future. So, yeah, I am not about it. And I hope that you guys are doing good. You feel me? I've been doing okay. I am dealing with a little, social situation in my life. Always, always, all the time. Tonka might come over this weekend, you feel me? So I'm very excited about that. In case you don't know who Tonka is, Tonka has been a reoccurring character now in my life for, over a year for my roommate and I. And, so that's been fun. Making friends when you're in your 30s is fun. Just because, like, it's no different than when you were a kid, except, like, you're an adult now and you talk about adult things, and I don't know. You guys make friends still? Are you in your 30s? I know a large part of the demographic that watches this channel is like 25 to 40. So, my middle-aged millennials, we're in the same group. My friends, what's up? And I'm just like, life is alright, and it can be frustrating sometimes, but I'm doing what I can to get through the day. I'm wearing glasses now, so it sucks that when I'm on camera I can't wear them. There was a joke on one of the shorts I recently uploaded, insurance only covers the glasses, and not like anti-glare or anything. I mean, I just, it's a weird thing, right? I don't know. It's all good. The government is willing to cover a small portion of, like what you need to get by, and that's all right by me, but we could do better. We could all definitely do better all the time. And I think just instead of giving our money to people who, don't have our interests at heart, we should probably just continue to keep our money, give our money to the people who want us, ideally, to be our best selves. And if we're not, it's their fault. So, like, so long as they pay for their actions, right? Again, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think people just want to live their lives, man. I think people really just want to be able to feed themselves and have a place to live. And they're not interested in extreme politics. They're not interested in voting on stupid things like educational vouchers. Like, again, rich people problems. God, it can be very frustrating. But yeah, so that's what I've got going on. And I'm hoping things will be moving a little bit faster sooner. I have some plans on, like, trying to get a summer job. I'm still trying. I think it's the story of my life, right? I hope that I'm not 80 and still saying in front of this camera, I'm trying, I'm trying. But that's cool. So, yeah. I hope that you guys have a really good day. Thank you again for watching my show. I know they've been a little long lately, but I've been trying to provide a little more content, you feel me? So, to all my loyal people out there who are going all in on the videos, I really appreciate it. And again, to my future self, we are kicking ass right now. It's doing very good. I'm very pleased with what's going on. So thank you so much. Seriously, have a really good day, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, bye.